कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे।
हरि ओम।
सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै।
ओम शांति शांति शांति।
श्री गीता ध्यान। ओम पार्थाय प्रबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन प्रतिभां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम्
अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणी
भगवतीं अष्टादशाध्यायी
गीता ध्यान
त्वामनुसन्धधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणी। नमोऽस्तुते व्यासविशालबुद्धे पुल्लारविन्दायतपत्रनेत्रा येन त्वया भारततल्यपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयः प्रदीपः प्रपन्नपारिजाताय स्तोत्रवैत्रेयपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः। सर्वोपनिषदो गावो भोक्ता गोपालनन्दनः पार्थो वत्सस्तुतिर्भक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं वसुदेवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। भीष्मद्रोणतटा जयद्रथजला गान्धारनीलोत्पला शल्यग्राहवती कृष्णवहनी कर्णेन वेणुला अश्वत्थामविकर्णघोरमर्दना दुर्योधनावती सोतीर्ण खलु पाण्डवैरननदी कैवर्तककेशवः पाराशर्यवचस्रघोषमलं गीतार्थगन्धोत्कटं नानाज्ञानकैस्तरं हरिकथा सम्बोधनाभूदितम्। लोके सज्जन शङ्करैरहराः तेऽपि रमानं मुदा भूयात् भारत पंकजं कलिमल प्रध्वंसिमश्रेयसे। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं
लङ्घयति
यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवं। यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदै साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदे गायन्ति यं सामगाः। ध्यानावस्थितततेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनो यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरगणा देवाय तस्मै नमः। देवाय तस्मै नमः। देवाय तस्मै नमः।
हरि ओम। So actually today is Gurudev Swami Chinmayanandaji's Janma Dinam. So 104th Janma Divas. So, I learned Bhagavad Gita and Vedanta from Chinmaya Mission. So I'm blessed to be one of the lineage of Swami Chinmayanandaji. So very, very blessed indeed. And with his blessings, I'm able to share my learnings. So with Sashtang Pranams to Gurudev Swami Chinmayanandaji, let's get started today's satsang. So in and through your duties, forget him not. And who is this applicable to? The one who worships him with the goal of attaining liberation. Now, mukti or liberation or freedom from sorrow happens in stages. And these are the names that are given to it. Salokya. Salokya means being in the presence of the Lord, in the same realm, in the Ishtaloka that the individual has worshipped throughout his or her life. Like we saw earlier that what you worship is where you reach. So that loka, that Ishtaloka. And there you are in the presence of the Lord. Which Lord? That to whom you worship or you dedicated your worship. The second one is Samipya. Samipya means being in the proximity of the Lord in Satyaloka, in Brahmaloka. Now imagine when we are able to take a selfie with Virat Kohli or let us say Narendra Modi, we feel so happy, So just imagine we could have breakfast with Bhagavan in Brahmaloka. We could sit around with him, have a selfie with him, and so on and so forth. Samipya, being in his proximity. Then Sarupya. Sarupya is identification of this bhakta, of this seeker with Bhagavan is so much. It goes to such an extent that the liberated soul acquires the same form of Bhagavan, both in terms of nature and in terms of physical appearance. In fact, some texts say that the soul, liberated soul, actually has 4 arms and so on and so forth, the same physical appearance and nature of Bhagavan. And then finally, Sayujya, the liberated one loses all aspects of individuality, and acquires the same dazzling effulgence as that of Bhagavan. This, when I was reading this, it reminds me of, the nighttime sky of Las Vegas is unbelievable. It's effulgent, it just shines forth. And if you're driving into Vegas, especially through those desert, right? All around Vegas, and even Vegas once upon a time was desert, now not as much so. When you're driving in from the desert without any lights anywhere, that entire sky glows. And they also say that pyramid casino in Vegas, I don't know who all are familiar with Vegas, there is a torch above on top of the pyramid. They say that you can see that from space. You can see a lot of the planet's lights. I don't know if you can see the pyramid torch, but essentially, it is effulgent. It is beautiful. It's like brilliance. The brilliance of Las Vegas night sky is something to be seen, to be behold. But when the sun rises in the morning, that brilliance kind of just merges into the sunlight. It's not to be seen after that. The sunlight is so much more brilliant that even obviously, they all switch off the lights, but even if they were on, you would not see or experience that effulgence within. That individuality of that Vegas night sky merges or gets into or is absorbed by the brilliance of the sunlight. Similarly, in Sayujya, the person's individuality completely gets absorbed into that of Bhagavan. So when individuality comes to an end, there is no further birth, no further embodiment. Bhagavan also said, Sarveshu Kaleshu Mamanusmara. At all moments in time, remember me. And Yudhyacha. And fight your battles. Perform your duties. in Bhagwan, dissolve all your karma, like sugar gets dissolved into milk. And Bhagwan says, when you do so, Mayar Pita Mano Buddhihi, with the mind and the intellect absorbed in me. Mano Buddhihi, mind and intellect, Mayar Pita, absorbed in me. Mam Evashyasya Samshayam. There is no doubt that you shall come to me alone. Mam Eva, me alone. Samshayam, no doubt. You will come to me alone. When we do so, in fact, when we focus and we concentrate in general in our life, and when a person who is aspiring, who is a seeker with the goal of liberation, when that person does this, we will see that our mind does not go hither and thither. Like we discussed in the last satsang about the Bhudam. It does not go all around. It's not any longer that monkey mind, which just jumps from one branch to the other of thought, the branches of thoughts. And that focus, that helps focus better. That aspect of not jumping around hither and thither helps focus better on our duty, which Bhagwan says, Yudhyacha, and also on our Anusmaran, that remembrance of the Lord, Mam Anusmaran. Both of these are done much better. And how does one reach him? Bhagwan himself says, Asanshayam, doubtlessly. And we saw, I actually jumped the gun a bit, but Mat Prasadat. When we do this, then the grace of Bhagwan is bestowed upon us. By my grace, Mat Prasadat. He takes it upon himself to make sure that you attain the highest abode. And that's how it happens. In the last verse, which we saw in the last satsang, Bhagwan spoke about remembering him with love and practicing devotion in this manner. From verse 8 to 13, which we will do today, he tells us the way we can enable the mind to think about the Lord. Enabling the remembrance with the help of yoga. And he lists out different modes of upasana that can be practiced by different types of people, depending on what the nature of the people are. The nature of the pursuant, the seeker, who seeks with the goal of liberation. So we will start with verse 8.
Abhyasa yoga yuktena
Abhyasa yoga yuktena
Chetasana gamina
Chetasana gamina
Paramam Purusham Divyam
Paramam Purusham Divyam
Yati Partanu Chintayan
Yati Parthanu Chintayan
Abhyasa yoga yuktena Chetasana gamina Paramam Purusham Divyam Yati Partanu Chintayan.
Chetasa. Chetasa is with the mind. With the mind what? Yuktena. Engaged in, steadfast. Yoga Abhyasa. Yoga here is what? The yoga of meditation. And habitual practice of that yoga, of concentration. So with the mind steadfastly engaged in the habitual practice of meditation. And Nanya Gamina, not going towards anything else, not getting distracted, focused completely. Then what happened in this manner? Anuchintayan means meditating in this manner. Paramam Purusham Divyam Yati. Supreme, Paramam Purusham, the Purusha, the Supreme Purusha. Divyam, the resplendent. This person goes to that Paramam Purusha with the mind steadfast through habitual meditation. Anuchintayan. Remember last time Bhagwan had talked about Anusmaran. Now Anuchintayan. continuously, constantly thinking about me. Now he's saying continuously, constantly meditating upon me, remembering me and meditating upon me. Through this habitual meditation, not getting distracted, single-pointed attention, not losing focus, not getting dragged away by any other thought, constantly meditating upon the resplendent Supreme Purusha, goes to that same Purusha. O Partha. Partha, always note, when Bhagavan uses Partha, it's a term, affectionate term. You are Kunti's son, O Partha. And later on, Bhagavan becomes Parthasarthi. Not yet, later on. I mean, he is still, but ultimately he becomes later, after the battle. So with such practice or abhyasa, one attains yoga. And in harmony with yoga. So repeated practice, you attain yoga. Remember, we also talked about Yoga Rudha, one who climbs the pedestal of yoga. The highest epitome of yoga is Yoga Rudha. So with this abhyasa, one attains that. And in harmony with yoga, the mind becomes single-pointed. And when such is the practice, one is focused on the Supreme throughout life. And the last remembrance will that be of Bhagavan, of the Lord. Yoga is nothing but chitta vritti nirodha. That means single-pointed attention. That is what yoga is. Any type of yoga that we are practicing, that single-pointed attention is a must. It doesn't happen suddenly. It requires practice. And that is why Bhagavan says abhyasena, abhyasa. Now, what is this abhyasa? We have seen this earlier also in one of the previous satsang. Abhyasa means something that is dirgha kala, that is practiced for a long period of time. Nairantarya, without a break. Satkara, consistently. Asevita, with great devotion and reverence. And Dridabhumi, with determination to achieve whatever we are practicing for. So that is the manner that one should do abhyasa. In the previous verse, Bhagavan had said Anusmara, we saw that. Okay, and now he is saying Anuchintayan. I'm just repeating this, I already said it. So one day, there was the small boy who was playing near the river when he saw an old man sitting down, and when he observed closely, he saw that the old man was drawing circles in the sand. And as he saw, the old man drew a perfect circle in the sand. Hey, old man, said this little boy, how did you draw such a perfect circle? The old man looked at the young little boy and he said, I don't know. You know, I've just tried and I tried again. And I tried once again. And then it happened. Here, why don't you try? He says to the little boy. So the man handed the stick to the little boy and walked away. The little boy sat down and started drawing circles. At first, the circle was all haywire, either too long, too wide, too crooked, not connecting the ends, and so on and so forth. But as time went by, the circles became better and better, began to look more like a circle. Like it's like when we belo chapati, no? You get the Australia map to the Singapore map also sometimes. But ultimately, over a period of time, you know, it gets nice and round. So this young little boy kept trying and trying and trying. And one morning, suddenly, in a bright light, he saw a beautiful, perfect circle on the sand he had drawn. And then he heard a small voice behind him. Hey, old man, how did you draw such a perfect circle? This beautiful story, it's a Zen story actually, that centers on the circle as a shape and symbol of perfection. The literal circle, which is drawn in the sand, represents the necessity of effort with the 5 elements of abhyasa. Okay, with all the 5 elements of abhyasa, which are what? Dirgha kala for a long time, Nairantarya without a break, Satkara consistently, Asevita with devotion and reverence, and Dridabhumi with determination. With those 5 qualities of practice, that symbol of perfection, which is done again and again, repeated effort. Practice makes perfect. The narrative circle of the story, the narrative, which is what? The young boy and the old man. And the young boy becomes the old man and there's one more young boy. That represents the circle of life. Sometimes in modern times, we view our success or perfection as a straight line, absolutely arrow straight line actually, with the destination at the end of the arrow or the straight line. We actually see ourselves at the beginning of a road, at the bottom of a mountain, beginning of the road with an end point to reach, bottom of the mountain with the peak to climb, at the start of a yoga certification course with the certificate to be completed. And we picture our destination, our goal, as in that straight line. If we perceive that end point as something which is out of the reach, how am I going to do this? Oh my God, this doesn't seem possible for me. It's very often we see that in our life, right? This goal, how am I going to achieve? This is going to be too difficult. If we perceive it that way, then reaching that goal becomes very intimidating. And that leads to lack of focus. And lack of focus results in poor or no practice at all. There is no abhyasa. However, if we are steadfast in our path, the yoga yuktena, we are steadfast, then we learn to shift focus from that final destination at the end of that straight line or the end of that road to the gently curving slope of the circle of life at the present moment. So that focus shifts to the present rather than to somewhere else. And all schools of thought say live in the present, correct? Don't they? This focus on the present brings the aspect of anu into our abhyasa. The anusmara, constant remembrance, and the anuchintayan, constant meditation, again and again and again. So you go from one portion of the arc to the other, to the other, to the other, to the other. Now, who is this Purusha? So if we are to do this, who is this Purusha upon whom we are to constantly meditate, constantly remember at every point in time? And what is the result of remembering him? Not only throughout the life, but then Bhagavan says at the time of death, Prayana Kali. What is the result of that? That Bhagavan covers in the next two verses. Let's read both the verses together.
Kavim Puranamanushasitaram
Kavim Puranamanushasitaram
Anuraniyam Samanusmaridyaha
Anoraniyam Samanusmaredyaha
Sarvasya Dhataramachintya Rupam
Sarvasya Dhataramachintya Rupam
Aditya Varnam Tamasa Parastat
Aditya Varnam Tamasa Parastat
Prayana Kale Manasachalena
Prayana Kale Manasachalena
Bhaktya Yukto Yoga Balena Chaiva
Bhaktya Yukto Yoga Balena Chaiva
Bruvor Madhye Pranamaveshya Samyaka
Bruvor Madhye Pranamaveshya Samyak
Satam Param Purusham Upaiti Divyam
Satam Param Purusham Upaiti Divyam
Kavim Puranam Anushasitaram Anuraniyam Samanusmarityaha Sarvasya Dhataram Achintya Rupam Aditya Varnam Tamasa Parasta Prayana Kale Manasachalena Bhaktya Yukto Yoga Bhatena Shaiva Bruvor Madhye Pranamaveshya Samyaka Satam Param Purusham Upaiti Divyam.
So Yaha, last word of the first or the second line. Yaha, who, anusmared, remembers. Who remembers what? Now Bhagavan gives the various qualities. Kavim. Kavim is omniscient. Here Kavim represent omniscient, all-knowing. Puranam, the most ancient. Anushasitaram. Anushasitaram, the controller, the ruler, the governor of the world. And then Ano Aniyamsam. Ano means atom. That which is very, very subtle. Aniyamsam, minutest, subtler than the subtlest. That is Aniyamsam. Dhataram, the dispenser, the nourisher, the supporter of what? Sarvasya, of all creation. Achintya Rupam, of inconceivable form and glory, something that we cannot even comprehend. Aditya Varnam, effulgent like the sun. Parastat Tamasaha, beyond. Parastat means beyond Tamas. Tamas here represent all of darkness, beyond darkness. And then continuing, Bhagavan says, Chaiva, again the last line of the second verse of this verse 10. Second line of this verse 10. Chaiva. Chaiva means and only when prayana kale, at the time of the death. And only at the time of the death, what? Manasa chalena, with the mind unshaken, single-pointed. Bhaktya yukto, full of devotion, immersed in devotion. Yoga balena, by the power of yoga. This is a beautiful verse actually. And then Bhagavan says, Aveshya, Aveshya having placed what? Pranam. Pranam is the life breath, the vital life breath. Having placed at Bruvor Madhye. Madhye, in the middle, Bruvoho, of the two eyebrows. And when you do that, this person, Saha, Tam, that, Param, supreme, Divyam, resplendent, Purusha, Purusham, Apnoti, or Upaiti, Purusham Upaiti. That Purusha he reaches, or she reaches. So Bhagavan is saying, who meditates upon, who remembers the all-knowing omniscient, the most ancient, the controller of the world, one who is minuter than the atom, subtler than the subtlest, the supporter or nourisher of all of creation, the inconceivable form and glory, one who has that kind of inconceivable form and glory, one who is effulgent like the sun, one who is beyond all darkness. And this kind of Bhagavan, when at the time of death, with unshaken single-pointed mind, immersed in devotion, combined with the bala of yoga, and having placed the prana, the life vital breath, in between the two eyebrows, such a person reaches the Supreme Purusha, the resplendent, effulgent Supreme Purusha. We will see this in detail, but wow, what a statement of assurance by Bhagavan for all practitioners of all kinds of yoga. So let us see this a little bit in detail. Okay. So Kavim. Kavim is one who sees beyond. See, one who sees beyond is the one who can write poetry. All of us can't get that, setting sun, beautiful, in the western beaches of India, in Goa or where Sarika is, go to the beach and, we will see a beautiful sunset, enjoy it, laugh and come back. Maybe even party in the beach. But a Kavi actually sees something more in it. Probably sees the sun kissing the planet Earth, merging into it, or whatever, someone who sees beyond, a visionary, one who has vision beyond space and time, not bounded by the space and time. And here Bhagavan is addressed as Kavim or Kavi because he is all-knowing, omniscient. Sarvajnani. Also, the consciousness principle that is serving as the soul within all embodiments is that which illumines the thought, the mind and the intellect, and enables awareness in the mind and the intellect. A factor without which knowledge cannot be gained. It is impossible without that. So that is why Bhagavan is addressed as Kavim. Then Puranam. We have seen this earlier also. He is the Adi Purusha, the Adi Bhuta, the Adi Daiva. We have gone through that in detail. That which was there before all of creation and remains same through all the ages and is there even after everything is destroyed, including the Apara Prakriti is destroyed. After that also it remains. The Aksharam Paramam Brahman, that Puranam, primeval. Anushasitaram, one who governs the universe, the entire creation, the Adi Yagya, the omnipotent. And Anoraniyam, the simplest, smallest physically divisible particle of any element that continues to retain the property of that element is called an atom in science. Here, Vedanta, Vedas, Bhagavad Gita, our scriptures have described Bhagavan as subtler than even the subtlest of scientific elements or any element at all. Subtler than the subtlest, the cause for everything, the supporter of everything. And the cause which has all the properties of its own creation and also pervades everything, all of creation. Anoreniyam. Sarvasya Dhataram. Sarvasya Dhataram. Sarvasya, of everything, of all creation. Dhataram, the supporter, the nourisher. However glorious a painting of an artist may be, maybe a master painter, Leonardo da Vinci, and the painting is beautiful, glorious, but it is the strength of the canvas behind that painting that nourishes and sustains the integrity of this painting and also the beauty through centuries. Similarly, it is this Purusha, the consciousness that nourishes, supports, and sustains all of life. And it is also the dispenser of karma phala. We have seen what karma phala is, the dispenser of karma phala. Achintya Rupam, of inconceivable form and glory. See, are we not advised that we need to meditate upon him? Does that mean that if we have to meditate upon him, that this Purusha can be conceived, can be perceived, can be comprehended, is a finite aspect? No, that is not so. Having a nature that is other than everything else, it is not possible to conceive him or his glory, neither the form nor the glory of the Purusha. It's only the Apara Prakriti that can be conceived. The Para Prakriti cannot be conceived, cannot be comprehended. Aditya Varnam, effulgent like the sun, the illuminator of all. Just like the sun bestows clarity on whatever it shines upon, the effulgent consciousness principle bestows intellectual and mindfulness, intellectual clarity and mindfulness to all. Then Tasmat Parastat, beyond darkness. That power, that once you get to know that power, once you acquire knowledge of that power, removes all ignorance and all delusion completely. See, we saw that Arjuna started this with what? Ignorance, sorrow, and delusion. The mightiest archer, absolutely incapable. Rendered incapable by what? By sorrow and delusion. But once you get to know this, and we will see at the end of chapter 18, where Arjuna says, I am standing up now, the one who had sat down, discarded all his weaponry. The delusion completely goes away. So once you know all of ignorance and delusion vanishes. And Bhagavan says, Yaha anusmare, who worships in this manner, whoever it may be. Remember that. Bhagavan completely again and again and again in the Bhagavad Gita, he says whoever, irrespective of caste, creed, age, sex, nationality, whatever, whoever it may be. And not only that, it does not matter who you worship also. Whoever may be worshipping and whoever you may worship. Bhagavan is only mentioning the manner of worship here, not the subject or the object of worship. And then he says, Prayana Kale, at the moment of death. A yogi who is in pursuit with that goal of liberation must be aware that his or her time is coming to an end. And with this awareness and with the power of dedicated practice, the yogi does something. We'll see what the yogi does. Number one, Bhaktya Yukto, full of devotion to Bhagwan, immersed in devotion, which is what we have seen earlier, the heart fine-tuned to the Lord with love or in love, and the brain fine-tuned to the Lord in respect. Mat chitta, mat paraha. Immersed in devotion, like that gulab jamun which is absorbed in that syrup. Immersed in devotion. So with this knowledge, with this awareness, the person goes deeper and deeper into the devotion of the Lord. Which knowledge, awareness? That my time, which is anyway has to happen someday or the other, is coming to an end in this embodiment. And I'm going to achieve my goal, which I want, liberation. And for me to achieve that goal, absorbs deeper. Selfless immersion into the divine with firm faith and all-out belief is called bhakti. That kind of bhakti the person develops at that stage. And yoga balena, with the power of yoga. What yoga? Atma samyama yoga or dhyana yoga. This is the strength required or acquired by a meditator who has meditated upon the Supreme for long periods of time. Anuchintayan. In life. That person who has got into Savikalpa Samadhi again and again and again. And with this strength that is acquired from what? Acquired from jnana, bhakti and yoga, yoga bala. This person, what does this person do with this strength? Manasa chalena, making the mind achala. Manas achala. Making the mind achala. Achala means what? Single pointed. Imagine this. At the time of leaving the body, at the time of death, bringing the mind into a steady poise filled with bhakti and yoga bala, and using bhakti and yoga bala, and thereby aveshya, placing or focusing the pranam, which is the breath of life, samyak, completely, wholly, bruvor madhye, in between the eyebrows. So when Bhagavan says bruvor madhye pranam aveshya samyak, this is not pranayama as we understand it. It's not the control of breath or regulation of breath as we do. We have seen pranayama earlier also. This is the control of prana or life breath. The yogi, through the power of bhakti and yoga, is literally able to hold the leaving prana in between the eyebrows. Prana represents what? Prana represents all expressions of life's vitality. All our vitality. Through all our instruments. The 5 sense organs, the organs of action, the mind, the intellect, everything. All the aspects of life's vitality through all the instruments and organs of the body. All vital elements that infuse life into this body, mind and intellect. All of that together is prana. Such a person, the yogi, who has worshipped Bhagavan as described earlier, right? Remember, Bhagavan said, Kavim Puranam Anushasitaram Anoraniyam samanusmaredyah sarvasya dhataram achintya rupam aditya varnam tamasat parastat. In this manner worshipping Bhagavan, and who at the moment of death make the minds and intellect perfectly silent and tranquil through immense bhakti and power of yoga, and places that vital breath of life wholly in between the eyebrows, Bhagavan says, Sa upaiti tam param divyam purusham. Saha, this person, upaiti, reaches, goes to, tam param, that supreme, divyam purusham, resplendent purusha. For the earnest and sincere seeker, these two verses cover vast wealth of instructions and guidance. In fact, Swami Chinmayananda ji, he has said, and I quote, so long as these two verses exist, even if all of the Upanishads are lost, one can say that the Sanatana Dharma culture, in essence, cannot be wiped away from the history of the world, as long as these two verses are there. That's the beauty of these two verses and the power of these two verses. So Bhagavan spoke about how one with single-pointed habitual meditation attains him in verse 8. And then in verse 9 and 10, he describes the qualities of his that one should remember, one should focus the mind upon with bhakti and the power of yoga, and leave the body with that focus alone, thus attaining him. Now he is going to give us the method of attaining his abode by meditating upon Om in the next three verses. So we will go through them. We'll first recite verse 11 where he says, I will tell you, and then we'll go to the other two verses. So verse 11.
Yadaksharam veda vido vadanti
Yadaksharam veda vido vadanti
vishanti yadyatayo vitaragaha
vishanti yadyatayo vitaragaha
yadichanto brahmacharyam charanti
yadichanto brahmacharyam charanti
tatte padam sangrahena pravakshe
tatte padam sangrahena pravakshe
yadaksharam veda vido vadanti vishanti yadyatayo vitaragaha yadichanto brahmacharyam charanti tatte padam sangrahena pravakshe.
Yadaksharam, that which is termed as imperishable in the Vedas, the Aksharam Brahma Paramam. Veda Vido Vadanti, as declared by the knowers of the Vedas. Veda Vita, the knowers of the Vedas, they have declared Vadanti. Yadyatayo, Yadyatayaha, that into which the self-controlled, Vitaragaha, people who are desire-free and attachment-free, Vishanti, enter. Yadi Chanto, the seekers who desire to attain, we have talked about them earlier, the Mumukshu, Brahmacharya Charanti, and to attain that desire which they have, to attain that goal, they practice utmost discipline. So three kinds of people are referred to here. The Vedavita, the knowers of the Vedas, who have declared the goal that is imperishable, the goal that should be reached by everyone. The second is the Atayaha. Atayaha are the realized people who are self-controlled and free of attachment and passion. They achieve this goal. And then the Icchantaha, the seekers who desire to attain this goal. And in order to attain, with that desire to attain, in order to attain, they practice utmost discipline. Brahmacharya here refers to discipline. And they are all focused on that goal. Tatte padam pravakshe sangrahena. That ultimate goal, I shall explain to you briefly, is what Bhagavan is saying here. And in the next two verses, he explains. We'll recite verse 12 and 13 together.
सर्वद्वाराणि संयम्य
सर्वद्वाराणि संयम्य
मनोहृदि निरुध्य च
मनोहृदि निरुध्य च
मूर्ध्याध्यायात्मनः प्राणम्
मूढ्याध्यायात्मनः प्राणम्
आस्थितो योगधारणाम्
आस्थितो योगधारणाम्
ओमित्येकाक्षरं ब्रह्म
ओमित्येकाक्षरं ब्रह्म
व्याहरन् मामनुस्मरन्
व्याहरन् मामनुस्मरन्
यः प्रयाति त्यजन् देहम्
यः प्रयाति त्यजन् देहम्
स याति परमां गतिम्
स याति परमां गतिम्
सर्वद्वाराणि संयम्य मनोहृदि निरुध्य च मूर्ध्याध्यायात्मनः प्राणम् आस्थितो योगधारणाम् ओमित्येकाक्षरं ब्रह्म व्याहरन् मामनुस्मरन् यः प्रयाति त्यजन् देहम् स याति परमां गतिम्.
So Bhagavan says Sarvadvarani, having closed all gates, having confined the mind in the heart, having fixed the life breath in the head, engaged in the practice of concentration, uttering the one single syllable, the single syllabled or one syllabled Om, the symbol of Brahman, and remembering me, Bhagavan, he who departs, leaving the body, attains the supreme goal. An upasaka, who is also a upasaka, a person who is devoted, the devotee, who is also a yogi, who has that yoga bala, the bhakti and the yoga bala combined. That is one who is fully devoted and also takes the practice of meditation, concentration. Bhaktya yuktaha yoga balena. And then Bhagavan says, Astito yoga dharanam. One can be established in the practice of concentration, meaning it can be undertaken effectively and continued efficiently. So you start doing the right thing and do it right, effectively and efficiently. So effectively is doing the right thing and doing whatever you do in the right way, with great quality, with perfection, samachara, as Bhagavan says, with perfection, is efficiently. So effectively and undertaken effectively and continued efficiently. Only when this is possible only when three necessary conditions are fulfilled in this seeker. And what are those three conditions that Bhagavan talks about in these two verses? Number one, Sarva Dwarani Samyamya. Having controlled all gates, each sense organ is an aperture in the physical human body. The eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, the taste buds, the skin, porous skin. Porous skin also has millions of apertures actually. So each sense organ has apertures, and that is what is being referred to as the gates. And Bhagavan is saying, shut them. See, even when we focus on something intensely, my favorite Roger Federer or Rafael Nadal, when they are focusing on hitting that forehand shot perfectly, everything else is shut down. That is, we see in our day-to-day life also. So, shut down those 5 main gates through which external stimuli reaches your mind and intellect. Don't allow that external stimuli to reach your mind and intellect and distract you from your focus area. To shut these 5 gates, you need what? You need discrimination, viveka, and dispassion, vairagya. And shutting out all these disturbances, nothing but shama, control of the senses. Remember the sadhana chatushtayam we have read, right? Shama, control of the senses. And then the second condition is mano hriddhi nirudhya, confining the mind to the heart. Here, the heart does not mean this pumping organ that controls and maintains the circulatory system in the human body. Here, the heart is the core, that core of positive and noble thoughts from which the positivity springs up, that sense of spirituality springs, that divinity comes forth. And when you do that, when you bring the mind to the heart, you're controlling the mind and making it nobler. It is nothing but Dhamma. And then Bhagavan says, Murdni Adhyatmanah Pranam. Murdni is the head. Adhyatmanah Pranam, the prana, the life breath. Draw it into the head. This means to withdraw the mind and intellect from everything external completely. So first you shut the sense organs, then you control the mind, intellect, and then you bring the prana and control it completely. In this way, the yogi is established in the practice of concentration. And Bhagavan says, Astito Yoga Dharanam. Astitaha is placed, Yoga Dharanam, in the practice of concentration, firmly. And in this position, once you are here, in this condition of mental and intellectual equipoise, what does this person do? The person actually qualifies, gets qualified, becomes fit to chant Om. Omityek aksharam brahma vyaharan. That ek aksharam, ekaha, one, aksharam, syllabled. That single syllabled Om, the person chants. The name of the Lord, the person chants. And through this, Mamanusmaran, remembering me. And Bhagavan says, Yah prayati tyajan deham. And doing this, having controlled the senses, having controlled the mind, having brought the prana into, sucked it up into your head, in between the eyebrows or into your head. Various practices describe this process in various ways. Okay, we don't have to go there now. Once you have done that, chant Om, that Ekakshara Om, which is nothing but Brahman, remembering me, Mamanusmaran. The Om represents the Apara Prakriti. Remembering me, when he says, represents also the Apara Prakriti. When you do that, automatically other things happen. And what happens? One who departs, leaving the body, Yah prayati tyajanan deham. Deham means body. This is actually a beautiful process. While chanting and contemplating upon Om, the seeker becomes so detached from all delusory identification that the ego is completely sublimated, that individuality is completely lost. In the single-pointed, all-out self-forgetting, where you forget yourself, contemplation upon Om, the seeker, as Bhagavan puts it, Yati Paramam Gatim, attains the supreme goal. This process, as we can comprehend, is not an easy one. Some people use practices like Raja Yoga, powered by bhakti and concentration, Yoga Bala, with great passion, control, dedication, and that level of control continued till the time you're leaving the body. And this requires tremendous amount of training. And others, they lose their individuality through the single-pointed, self-forgetting focus and chanting of Om. And yet other yogis do what Bhagavan mentioned in verse 8, which is, Bhagavan says, yes, these are all complicated people. If you have that nature, if you are fundamentally of that nature, you may choose to do either the first way or the chanting the Om way, or the simple way, which he emphasizes again, which he had pointed out in 8th verse, and he re-emphasizes in the next verse. That is also a very easy, smooth, simple way to attain the supreme goal, which we will see in the 14th verse.
अनन्यचेता सततम्
Ananyacheta satatam.
यो मां स्मरति नित्यसः
Yo mam smarati nityasaha.
तस्याहं सुलभः पार्थ
Tasyaham sulabha partha.
नित्ययुक्तस्य योगिनः
Nityayuktasya yoginaha.
अनन्यचेता सततं यो मां स्मरति नित्यशः तस्याहं सुलभः पार्थ नित्ययुक्तस्य योगिनः
Yo mam smarati nityasaha. Yaha who mam smarati remembers me. Nityasaha daily. Satatam constantly. Ananya chetaha with mind not thinking about anything else. Tasya for such a seeker. Yoginaha for that yogi. Nitya yuktasya who is ever steadfast. Bhagavan says, Aham, I am easily attainable. Sulabha, O Partha. To the one who is ever steadfast in life, throughout, that is a divine pursuit, fully, completely, we must remember this. One who remembers me in and through all actions, thinking of nothing else. I am easily attainable, O Partha. In chapter 4, verse 14, also, Bhagavan had indicated completeness in any pursuit, doing everything fully and completely. Iti mam yo bijanati karma bihi na sa bhadyate. Abhijanati mam, knows me fully, completely. Abhi means fully, completely. Janati mam, knows me. We also have Abhi sir in this satsang today. And I'm taking his name. So I have experienced him. He does everything completely, fully, 100% devotion. Lives up to his name actually. So remembering me at all times, even while performing actions, leads to knowing him completely. And that needs to realizing him fully. So an ever steadfast meditator is one who does not allow the mind to get its full freedom to run amok. Hither and thither. That Bhudam mind, the monkey mind, does not allow that. We often think that meditation is that 1 hour of sitting in dhyana in the morning and maybe in the evening, or that Sunday morning prayer ritual in the church, or that Friday evening prayer ritual in Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Satsang. That is not true. This false belief is foreign to our inimitable tradition. Sanatana Dharma, in its real sense, does not espouse a part-time behavior on the part of seekers. We can't be that, Acha Bhagwan, abhi aapko yaad kar leta hu. 10 minutes ke baad, I am back into my normal mode of life, whatever it may be. In and through your actions at all times. So for what kind of seeker am I easy to attain? Number 1, Ananya Chetaha, the mind being focused on me at all times. Conversely, Ananya Cheta actually means where the mind is not distracted or towards anything else. We saw this in the last satsang also. How is it possible? How do you, Bhagavan, what are you saying? If I keep thinking about you, how will I do my job? How will I do my work? No. You do your work, you do your duty thinking about me. Think about me doing your duty. Dedicate all that you do to me. Ishvara Arpana Buddhi. And receive whatever you receive thinking about me. Prasada Buddhi. Ishvara Arpana Buddhi and Prasada Buddhi. These two combined, will be 100% of the time focused in Bhagavan. And not distracted by anything. Ananya Chetaha. Satatam, constantly through your actions. Nitya, always, ever, permanently. Thus, Sri Krishna emphatically states that divine consciousness must be remembered by the seeker constantly and continuously. all through the day, every day, daily. If one is Ananya Chetaha, Satatam and Nityaha in spiritual pursuit, then the last thought is automatically Bhagavan. He takes care of that. Mat prasadat. When we do this, that will become his prasada. His prasada. So thank you very much. Hari Om. I'm going to say something differently now. Let us say, contrary to what I said last time, let us say our invocation prayers and conclude today's satsang. I am saying invocation because let us keep invoking him all through, in the beginning, during, in the end, and after the satsang. So let's keep invoking him all through our lives, at every point in time, every day, daily. Thank you very much. Hari Om.
So we'll do the verses and
Yeah, verses and then.
so chapter 8 verses 8 to 14. Abhyasa yoga yuktena chetasana gamina paramam purusham divyam bhativartanu chintayan avim puranam anushasitaram anuriyam samanusmaredyah सर्वस्य दातारमचिन्त्य रूपम् आदित्यवर्णं तमसः परस्ता प्रयाणकाले मनसाचलेन भक्त्या भ्रुवोर्मध्ये प्राणमावेश्य सम्यक् सतं परं पुरुषं वेति दिव्यम् यदक्षरं वेदविदो वदन्ति विशन्ति यद्यतयो वीतरागाः यदिच्छन्तो ब्रह्मचर्यं चरन्ति तत्ते पदं संग्रहेण प्रवक्ष्ये सर्वभाराणि हृदिरुद्ध च मूर्ध्याद् अध्यात्मना प्राणं आस्तिको एकाक्षरं ब्रह्मा व्याहरन् मामनुस्मरन् यः प्रयाति त्यजन् देहं स याति परमां गतिम् अनन्यचेता सततं यो मां स्मरति नित्यशः तस्याहं सुलभः पार्था नित्ययुक्तस्य योगिनः असतो मा सद्गमया तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमया मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमया ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ.
Hari Om, thank you. Open for thoughts, comments, questions.
जो 9 नंबर श्लोक है, हेलो
Anji, yeah, we can hear you, Tanuja ji.
जो 9 नंबर श्लोक है, क्या उसका वो फिर से रीड करके संधि समझाएंगे थोड़ा?
Sure.
It's a long word, I'm not able to understand. कविम पुराण मनु
अनुशासितारम अनोरणीयम समनुस्मरेद्यः सर्वस्य धातारम अचिन्त्य रूपम आदित्यवर्णम तमसः परस्तात्. So Bhagavan is basically saying, so thoda, Sanskrit hai na, so we have to go through. So first you see the last verse of the second line. Yah aniyam sam anusmared yah, that person who anusmared, who remembers what? Who remembers Bhagavan And then Bhagavan gives the qualities. Who remembers Bhagavan as number one, Kavi, Kavim, Kavim, the omniscient, the all-knowing. So you remember when you are meditating, remember Bhagavan as the all-knowing. When you are meditating, remember Bhagavan as the most ancient. When you are meditating, remember Bhagavan as the controller, the ruler of the world. As minuter than the minutest. As the dispenser, nourisher of all aspects of creation. One who has glory which is inconceivable, incomprehensible. One who is effulgent like the sun, and one who is beyond darkness. In this manner, remember Bhagavan. And remembering Bhagavan, then he says, Prayana Kale, how at the time of the death, with single-pointed, unshaken mind, with bhakti, with yoga bala, you bring in the prana to the middle of the eyebrows, and that way you reach me. So this is actually technical. So I would request that, you should go through it 2-3 times.
No, I'm learning little bit of Sanskrit.
Hanji.
So I just want to know the sandhi of the first line. Kavim Puran. So how do we break that long word?
Kavim Puranam Anushasitaram. So Kavim Puranam Anushasitaram.
Anushasitaram. Okay. Yeah. Then Anor.
Ano Aniyamsam. Actually, I should defer to Sarika for this. Sarika, please interrupt whenever. Ano Aniyamsam. Anusmaredyaha.
Anur Aniyam.
Anor Aniyamsam. Anor Aniyamsam. Anusmaredyaha.
Anor Aniyam Sam.
You don't say Anor Aniyamsam. Actually, Ano is atom. Aniyamsam is minute or minutest. Anor Aniyamsam, when you combine the two, the R comes.
Okay. Anor Aniyamsam. Anur Aniyamsam. There's a plural of Anu.
Anor Aniyamsam.
Aruniyamsam.
When you see it separately, when you say atom and the subtlest in 2 separate words, you say Ano and Aniyamsam. But when you say it together, you say Anor Aniyamsam.
Anur Aniyamsam. Thank you.
So there is a question in chat. I have to see it. Have you to be a yogi to reach pure consciousness? A yogi becomes a jnani, but to reach the state of realization, you need to get into the bhakti path, which is beyond a jnani. What about for? Actually, yes. See, you have you to be a yogi. See, you are now going back to the section 1 of the Bhagavad Gita. So, section 1, which is chapter 1 to 6, that describes the process of how you can become a yoga rudha. How do you become a yoga rudha? See, everybody is doing. Yeah, you have to be a yogi. Yes, that is the step by step process that Bhagavan lays down in the spiritual path, right? And he starts off by saying, everyone acts. In fact, you cannot help but act. That is also what Bhagavan says earlier. There is no choice. You have to act by your own nature. Your nature impels and compels you to act. So because you are forced to act, you act. That is karma. But how do you convert karma to karma yoga, thereby becoming a yogi, first part of the yogi? You convert karma to karma yoga by Ishvara Arpana Buddhi and Prasada Buddhi, by dedicating all actions to Bhagavan and receiving all fruits, as that is what we saw today also. So that way, that is karma yoga. When you practice karma yoga, the mind gets purified. Chitta Shuddhi. What is purification of the mind? Nothing but the disturbances in the mind get minimized down, lower and lower and lower, and ultimately they go away. That is purification of the mind. When the impurities go away, it becomes pure. And that pure mind is able to focus. Chitta Ekagratha. When you get Chitta Shuddhi and when that pure mind is able to focus, then you are able to meditate, dhyana. And when you meditate, you get Atma Samyama. And then you become a yoga rudha. Becoming a Yoga Ruda, then you practice Savikalpa Samadhi. You focus on that one Om or that one, whichever, whatever you want. That one worship, that Bhagavan, that Rupa, that you want to focus on. Concentrate on that, eliminate all other thoughts. It requires tremendous amount of discipline. You keep doing that, keep doing that, keep doing that. Ultimately, just that one thought remains. And when that one thought remains and you focus on that one thought over a period of time, automatically that thought also goes away. That is Nirvikalpa Samadhi. And that is what Bhagavan says in process of how you become a Yoga Ruda, right? Actually, even before Nirvikalpa Samadhi, Savikalpa Samadhi, you have become a Yoga Ruda. And once you are a yogi, then you are absorbing deeper and deeper and deeper. And that absorption requires these three elements which Bhagavan talked about today. That absorption absolutely requires jnana. That absorption requires bhakti. And for some people, that absorption requires yoga bala. Then how do you achieve that dhyana? How do you achieve that concentration? How do you achieve that, Atma Samyama Yoga? You can achieve that either by chanting or by, Om Smriti, or by that Raja Yoga, where in Raja Yoga you actually you put in effort to concentrate all of the elements into between your eyebrows, and from your eyebrow it comes here in the top of your head, and from there the prana leaves. You focus the prana on that. So Bhagavan here talks about how that Yoga Ruda was then seeking liberation. That person, how is that person able to achieve this? So your question, just to complete it, you are saying,
I'm there.
yeah, so basically all yogi becomes a jnani but not reach the state of realization. You need to give into bhakti. It's various ways. All these ways you can. You may believe that you have to give into bhakti. When you become a jnani, and that jnani at the pinnacle, bhakti automatically comes. When you are a true bhakta, with that filled with devotion, absorbed in devotion, jnana also automatically comes. So both are complementary to each other. They are not exclusive. And automatically I didn't understand the philosopher path, but all these are philosophers. A person who is seeking Bhagavan with the aim of liberation can be called a philosopher.
The philosopher doesn't do meditation. That's what I meant. He just reads and tries to understand what is truth.
See, if you go back to, yes, absolutely. See, there are various ways that Bhagavan talks about, right? So philosopher done the right way, also you can achieve. Actually, if you go back to Karma Yoga, Bhagavan says that you can achieve me only by performing your duty. That's about it. As a yoga. That itself is good enough also, he says. But ultimately, it implies that when you do that, you make progress. If you are a philosopher in your definition of philosophy or philosopher, then ultimately you will become that yogi.
It will lead you to that.
It will lead you to that. Exactly.
Thank you, Sri.
Why is it that some achieve realization sooner and easier than others? This is actually a beautiful question, and for various reasons. One is with what are you born? We have seen earlier, this question is from Abhi sir. So Abhi sir, we have seen earlier in our in the previous chapters that life is a continuum, that life is a cycle, and Bhagavan assures the seeker. Arjuna asked this question, Bhagavan, you are listing out this process. Okay, and Arjuna is bluntly asking Bhagavan, what if I die in this battle? Bhagavan, aap to yahan pe mujhe Bhagavad Gita suna rahe ho, and mujhe keh rahe ho, go fight Arjuna, go fight Arjuna. And what if I die there? What will happen? Bhagavan assures that when you come back, you will, that whatever you have achieved in this life, it is there with you in the next life. And we actually discussed a couple of examples. For example, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa and Vivekananda, right? Vivekananda was disciple of Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. And as Bhagavan says, depending on the level of progress on the spiritual path, either you can be born in the life of a prosperous, well-to-do person who are spiritually inclined. Like Swami Vivekananda was born in the household of a prosperous, well-to-do person who was spiritually inclined. That enabled him to progress from where he was in the previous Janma. And Ramakrishna Paramahamsa was born in the household of sages, accomplished spiritual masters. That is where he was born. So he was obviously had in his previous Janma had achieved a higher level. So essentially to your question, some people achieve sooner, some people achieve later. It's a continuum for the soul. Ultimately, it is the soul that is achieving. So depending on which level you are coming into this planet with, you may achieve sooner or later. I hope I answered your question.
Here, then when you said when you come back to this planet, does it mean that when we are born, we come back to planet Earth? There is no other planet we may take birth in?
So, so the lokas, we also went through the lokas, right? The 7 higher lokas. They start with the earth and then, the bhu, bhuvaha, suvaha, janaha, tapa, so on, right? Satya loka is the highest loka, the Brahma loka, right? So the bhu loka, and in the bhu loka, the human being who has a very highly developed mind and intellect, who has the capability to set, pursue, and achieve goals. They are the ones who can, there's nobody else who can have a discussion like we are having, right? So Bhuloka, yes, number one. Number two, in the Bhuloka, human being, yes, who has this higher level of mind and intellect. And those are the people who have this goal of liberation. So Bhagavan is talking about who is this yogi? This yogi is a person who worships me with the goal of liberation. That is possible in the Bhuloka among human beings. And when that happens, then you achieve the next higher lokas, any of the next higher lokas, based on the progress you have made in your spiritual path and based on the Ishvara that you are worshipping. So based on that, you achieve the next, whichever higher loka you go to. And depending on which loka you go to, Bhagavan says that you will spend a period of time, eternal amount of time, Bhagavan says, in that loka, and then you come back into planet Earth. And finally, you reach the Satya Loka. And in the Satya Loka, you spend another eternal amount of time with Brahman, with the Apara Prakriti, and from there attain complete full salvation, from where there is no return. You lose your individuality. You give up your individuality.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts, comments, or questions?
Hi, Srini. I have a question.
Yeah,
I will take a little bit of time to catch up with all the terms because I missed in between. We were talking about abhyasa, constant practice, focus, concentration, single pointedness. Now, looking at the present generation, which is basically, they want instant success. They want instant results. And anything which is like a constant practice, which is like going on and on, it leads to boredom for them. How do you handle that? And what do you have to say about it?
So the first comment I want to make is, yes, the present generation, and a lot of people in the present generation are like this. But the entire generation is not like that. There are.
That's true.
The fact is that population has also exploded, right? There are so many more people now than the previous generation, and so many more people than 2 generations before us. So the sheer number of people makes it also appear, the reflection of the volume is also there on the society. That is why, and also the society that we live in, that we are part of, this quote unquote upper middle class, upper middle class, higher class of people. That generation, what you're saying is, I would say, fairly true. But I have met a lot of people in this quote unquote segment. Class in modern terms is not what, the Varna we will see later in Bhagavad Gita, the Varnas that Bhagavan has defined. Bhagavan defined Varnas based on an individual's nature. Now Varna is defined based on the level at which you are in the society. So yes, in a particular segment of the society, what you're saying is true, that impatience, that boredom, if in repetition. But even in this segment, look at Sarika. Sarika is amazingly accomplished, right? Sarika is what, 30 years old. So Kushagra, right? So we have a few youngsters in this group, who are so much interested and so much dedicated to this kind of a pursuit. Amrapali also, is young. I don't know how old she is, but she's young, right? So there are people in this generation who are, spiritually more inclined. There are people who are not spiritually inclined. I try with my own children. I know that there is some element of spirituality that they've come with, like Ramakrishna and Vivekananda came with. I know it because you see that. Like Amrita is here. Yeah, Amrita joined. She sang, she did bhajan also last time, right? So Amrita a little bit reluctant, but she is there. And as she continues, it will get better and better and better. So I think, number one, what we can do is, as much as possible, expose them to this. I wish I was in my teens and in my, younger life. I wish I was exposed to the Bhagavad Gita. If nothing else, I was not. I knew a few shlokas. I recited with sincerity all through. But I became spiritual only in my mid-40s or so, early or mid-40s, quote unquote. Before that, even I was not. I was very much into this modern life, where as children, we were like, how much marks did you get? What college are you going to go? What job are you going to get? We also do that, right, to our children. You have to do IIT, I'm sure you do that to your son. IIT jana padega, right? So we create that pressure for them. They get into that pressure. That's the world we have got into in this modern world today, where that straight line with that destination, mujhe wo IIT degree chahiye, kind of a thing, right? So we give them that exposure and leave it to them, because it's the soul that is in them that's going through that journey. It's up to that soul at the end of the day, and it will go through the journey that it is going through. But the fact that they are born in this, like Swami Vivekananda, Bhagavan says, no, that you will be born in a household which is affluent and spiritually inclined. So if you're born in a household that is affluent and spiritually inclined, that itself is a significance of their progress that they made. So obviously there is some progress, and at some point in time in this Janma itself, they'll get to it, like we have got to it.
So how should we create their interest?
How should we?
How should we create an interest in Gita for the young generation when we meet them? I find it very difficult. Today I'm going to meet 15, 20 children. There is some Shok Sabha kind of thing. Yesterday also it was there. So I told them, let us talk or do something about Gita. Somebody dies in the family, then we should be reading some Gita shloka. So that person said, no, we have paid a Brahmin. He will read Gita on our behalf. I had no answer to that. People don't know what.
I would say the same thing, give them the exposure and then leave it to them.
So how to start it? Like, I've been planning since morning, at least 2 sentences. I can tell them that it creates their interest in it. Some shlokas I know I can say, but that bend towards Gita, they think it is something somebody else should read, like something beyond their reach or something.
That is
Even-
true, not only for the younger generation. There are my friends who are my age, maybe a little bit
yeah, my
older,
age also.
who say, यार
Yeah.
70 years के बाद तेरे को सुनूंगा, अभी नहीं सुनना.
हाँ,
70 साल
that
तक
is
मुझे
not
bother मत कर.
bother. Exactly. That is the kind of reaction.
Yeah.
So we should
When
not
you get
talk
into it, you
about
feel, when you
Hmm?
get into it, you always, I would say 100% of the time, people who get into it, they think, wish I had done this earlier.
Yes, I also did 3 years back and I'm loving it. I wish I had done it at a younger age, maybe in childhood itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other thought? Thank you all. So if nothing else, then we'll say Hari Om and we'll meet next Saturday, continue chapter 8. Thank you all. Hari Om. Have a nice day.